My name is Haley, and I did my final project on education in Native American communities, specifically the Waadookodaading Ojibwe Language Immersion School. Education in Native American communities in the past was not pleasant. In the 1800s, American Indians were sent to boarding schools to, quote-unquote, Americanize these children. They were taught that indigenous language and culture was inferior to others, and they would be taught in English and forced to speak it as well. Many children were unable to see their families and were forced to do manual labor while at these boarding schools. This meant that they would often spend their summers at the schools rather than at home with their families, immersed in their culture. The two photos are from the boarding school era. The top photo is of students outside one of the Indian boarding schools. The other is a before and after photo of a boy who would have gone to one of the boarding schools. This just goes to show what great lengths these schools would go to strip students of their culture, cutting their hair and not allowing them to wear native attire. Education in Native American communities today is still not where it should be. Many schools, specifically ones ran by the BIE, which is the Bureau of Indian Education, are hit harder and doing worse than others. Schools struggle on multiple accounts. Curriculum issues are a result of the BIE's mismanagement, which gave schools permission to use assessments that failed to meet federal requirements. There is also deficient curriculum to properly teach native language and culture. This is related to the fact that the federal government runs these schools, and not the tribes themselves. There is often little materials to be used to teach their culture properly. There is a lack of skilled teachers because the BIE schools are underfunded and struggle to attract and keep qualified teachers and principals. This includes educators that belong to the tribe or live within the reservations. The lack of funding is due to the fact it is coming from the federal government. Often the funding is insufficient to maintain a school, let alone create a progressive environment where children can flourish. There is also a lack of technology within Native schools as well. 60% of Native schools tend to lag behind 21st century technology standards. This makes it harder to teach in a modern world. The structures that are meant to be the schools also often have leaking roofs and walls, mold, and signs of asbestos. This is not a safe environment for staff and students, and will not promote a good learning environment. There's also differences within graduation rates. It is seen that 67% of Native American students graduated from high school, compared to the usual 80% national average of every other American within the U.S. It is also proven that Native students attending public schools often are more successful than students attending schools run by the BIE. This goes to show that it is the underfunding, the lack of staff, the curriculum issues, the lack of technology, and the physical structure issues that are causing these differences within the students. The students are capable of much more, but the BIE and the federal government are limiting their success. The image on this slide is of Crystal Boarding School in Navajo Nation in Crystal, New Mexico. This school is run by the BIE. You can see in the photo that there is not much within the school. This shows how different a school will look when run by the Bureau of Indian Education. The Waadookodaading Ojibwe Language Immersion School is located within the Lac Courte Orioles School District and serves the St. Croix Chippewa and Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa communities. The school district is located in Hayward, Wisconsin. The school was piloted in 2001 with 6 kindergarten-aged children, and it has been going since, even expanding the amount of grades they teach. Waadookodaading means a place where people can help each other. Children are immersed in Ojibwe language, Ojibwe as a strategy of saving an endangered native language. The K-8 school is the first and only Wisconsin Indian Language Immersion School, where a native language is the medium of instruction. This means all lessons are taught in the Ojibwe language. The school not only focuses on the language, but is academically rigorous as well, teaching all subjects and curriculum matters. To go to show this, it is expected that by kindergarten, children attending the schools know two writing systems, English and Ojibwe, and they will continue to be bilingual throughout their education, since at home they will speak English. The map on the slide shows where the school is located in Wisconsin, which is in Hayward within the Lac Corte Orioles Reservation. Sugarbush is an important immersive experience at Waadookodaading. At Sugarbush, students work together to drill trees, cut and haul wood, and haul sap. Children who are older and have already gone to Sugarbush will be partnered with a younger, first-time child, and they will work together. Back in the classroom, students observe staff boiling sap down into taffy, sugar, and candy. This is an important event since it symbolizes a sweet end to a long winter. It is a joyous time, and they are thankful for the trees and their precious gift. All of the images are from a day at Sugarbush. The first is of an adult helping a child, the next of a man tapping a tree. The following is of children eating by a campfire, and the preceding photo is of children tracing the bark on a tree with crayons. In the next row, there is a photo of a child holding a maple stick made from the sap they tapped. And the last photo is of a group of children playing a drum together. Through these images, you can start to see and understand the culture and the mission for the school. The reason schools like Waadookodaading are essential is because they are one of the last efforts to preserving Native languages and cultures. Schools like Waadookodaading Ojibwe Language Immersion School are forced to now preserve languages due to the policies in boarding school era from the 1860s to the 1960s. In boarding schools, children were stripped of their native languages and their cultural identities. Waadookodaading's mission is to create proficient speakers of the Ojibwe language who are involved in local community, culture, language, and traditions. Also, to create solutions to help protect their community and planet, as well as helping students communicate with each other through the Ojibwe language to live a good life. It is also important to note that when the school started, they faced curriculum issues. There were no books written in the Ojibwe language. Luckily, the elders around were able to translate children's books into the language to be used within the school that first pilot year, and they have continued to use those resources in the preceding years. They have also lost some of their staff and founders due to finding new jobs or passing. Most of the elders that came together to start the school have since passed. The challenges faced when trying to address the poor education system in place for Indigenous peoples falls back on the broken promises of the United States government. They are not holding up their end of treaties in place between tribes and the United States government. The stereotypes around Indigenous people often make it difficult to push for reform. The average American sees contributions to attempt to make right on the treaties and agreements and make things better as handouts. Many Americans are unaware of the treaties signed during the beginning of this country, in exchange for the land and resources that Americans took from the natives. Americans also have misconceptions about Indigenous people's ways. Many people think Native people are lazy because they receive government support, which is not the case. Many people see the high abuse rates, alcohol use rates, and suicide rates as an excuse and reason to not provide the help that these people need. This support is often not enough to support their needs. The Obama administration attempted to reorganize the BIE, but it was difficult due to the partial support that was received. They had hoped to give more autonomy to the tribes in their school systems and education. Obama was able to sign an Executive Order 13592, which seeks to improve educational opportunities for American Indian and Alaskan natives. There has also been an increase in aid offered to Native students, but many people often see this as well as a handout and something that should not be given out. Once again, this is just an attempt to help make right on the treaties and promises made in the past. Many people still neglect to realize, understand, or educate themselves on the topics and issues that occur within Native American communities, and often tend to have opinions on what goes on in these communities.